right, with that said, everybody sit back and relax. Let's get into the topic for the day. The blueprint for success, featuring none other than Mr. Julian Lewis, but he was a system engineer when he discovered ACN. He wanted to be a stay-home dad. He saw ACN as a way to change his life. His first mentor said, put your head down, get to work, and get to the international. And the international explained what I did not explain to you. And he got busy. He rearranged his plans, got there. He told his mentor, I didn't need a lot of rah-rah. Got there and found out it was really training and things that he needed. And I tell you what, we all think this rah-rah, but no, he got there, saw what he needed, got what he needed, went back home and got busy. Without further ado, from San Diego area, the one and only regional director, Mr. Julian Lewis.
Good morning, Mr. Thomas. Good morning, everyone. I appreciate all of you that I saw this weekend that actually gave me a hug. Remember to do so. Some of y'all gave me a handshake, and I forced the hug on you. So thank you for accepting the forced hug. And Mr. Thomas, I just want to thank you for getting me out there, winning the contest, and being able to catch a free flight. You guys know it tastes better when it's free, right? You catch a free flight because we put our heads down, worked hard, and it wasn't free. We worked hard and we won a contest. So I do appreciate that, Mr. Thomas. And the event was great. Again, I want to repeat, it was great seeing all of you that I got to. And if you didn't see me, you might have saw me grab this thing. And yes, I do have the coffee. I waited for y'all to share it with you, but no one showed up. So I took it home with me. And I'm gonna put this thing in a French press. It smells amazing. I can smell it through the bag. It's incredible. But so I will tell everyone how amazing it is, and I can't wait to see all of you on the 7-day event that they put together. Sam and her husband for learning social media. It's going to be great. But let's get into it, Mr. Thomas. Thank you for being the leader that you are. Thank you for always showing up consistently. Thank you for showing up when you don't have to. You know, I ran into a leader that I used to work with in San Diego, and he said he was blown away. He talked to his regional coordinator, and he found out that Mr. Thomas was willing to do a PBR for him. And he just said, and book it, invite. He didn't make him jump through any hoops. He didn't say you need to have 1,000 people there. And he was shocked by that. And I looked at him, we were in line standing for lunch. I said, I don't know why you're surprised. That's why he's an SVP. See, you don't get to SVP and start doing those things. You realize that SVP just meant that you're a brand new person that got excited about the business and you did what was necessary and you repeated that process. And so I want to, again, thank you for always being humble, always being a servant leader, and being a great friend to me as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're ready to get into it today. I know all throughout the weekend, I saw everywhere we looked, it was about becoming unstoppable. Does everyone know that it was about becoming unstoppable this weekend? And Mr. Thomas gave you a little bit about my background, but just to give you some details, prior to getting involved with his company, I was a senior systems engineer. I was working with Bank of America. I was working 80 to 90 hours a week. I was averaging 50 to 60 flights a year. It put me in a situation where I really didn't have a lot of time for myself or my family, but good fortune came my way. I was introduced to this business by my first mentor in this industry, who shared with me a system that allows someone as busy as me to work this in the cracks of my schedule and enabled me being consistent to come home to my family. But most importantly, I was able to become the type of father that I felt my daughter deserved, which was present. I was present, and it was exciting. And I can tell you a lot of what I was able to do was deciding to become unstoppable. I didn't know that that's what it was when I was doing it, because I was just falling in love with the process. I heard someone say over the weekend that you should marry the process and divorce the outcome. And so I really became a student in the process. And so I want to talk about becoming unstoppable today, because I feel that all of you would like, well, I'm not sure. Do me a favor, put a 1 in the chat if you want to become unstoppable. I really want to know, because not everyone feels that way. But if you do feel that way, I want to know who I'm talking to today. So if you really want to become unstoppable, we're going to break down 10 things that you're going to need to do in order to get there. Is that all right? Is that fair? All right. So the first thing we need to do is understand. It's becoming aware of and working through some things. So one of the first things that you want to become aware of is that you're a work in progress. Okay. So what does that mean? I hear a lot of people say, I'm not good at this. Do me a favor. We're all adults. If you know that there's something that you are not good at, and you are comfortable enough, we're all supposed to be family. I hope you feel we're family. You gave me a hug, right? Some of you held on a little bit longer than I expected, and I appreciate that too. But if we're all family and there's something that you feel that you're not good at, do me a favor, drop it in the chat. What do you feel you're not good at? Social media. I appreciate you, T. Follow up. All right, I get it. Follow up, another follow up, getting customers. All right, customer acquisition. Okay, and so I'm seeing this. So here's what I need you to do. Do me a huge favor. If you're taking notes, write down the thing that you said you're not good at, and write down three-letter word at the end of that sentence. Yet. See, the problem is a lot of times we think that being not good at something is a permanent situation. It's just a temporary situation. Some of us will make excuses and say, well, I'm not talented, but talent is just the rate at which you learn a new thing. So you might learn it a little bit slower or faster, but that's just the rate. Talent is the rate. It doesn't mean that you can't learn it. And so you haven't learned it yet. You're not good yet because you're a work in progress. So you want to change the perspective. Instead of seeing not hitting the mark as failure, see it as for what it really is, getting familiar with balance. Well, what do I mean by balance? When you learn to ride a bike, you can watch as many videos as you want, but you're not going to learn until you experience balance or experience losing balance. And so you start to really understand. And if I tried to describe to you what balance is and you've never experienced, you would not be able to understand what I'm saying. But once you start to get familiar with it. And as you move to the left and the right on the bike, trying to keep your balance, you become that's a process. And so you want to fall in love with the process and understand that number one, you are a work of progress. Number two, the power of experience. And I've talked about this on calls before, where when you were younger, everything you did when you were little was to have a new experience. If I saw something in the corner of the room that was a color that I liked and I'm a baby, I'm trying to figure out how to get there. Notice I'm not saying I can't walk, I can't crawl, I can't scooch. All I'm seeing is that new thing and I'm figuring out a way to get there. Maybe it's to do an army crawl, maybe it's to scooch, maybe I'm good at doing something. Maybe it's to holler at the top of my lungs so that my parent can get me over there, but it's all about a new experience. And at some point we lost knowing that this is about experience. See, leaving your comfort zone will bring you new experience. You can only encounter great opportunities by exploring new experiences. Diverse experiences develop confidence. Diverse experiences develop confidence. So number one, I want you to think about your first job. Think about your first job for a second. When you get your first job and you get there, you're a nervous wreck. How many of us remember being a nervous wreck with our first job, wanting to do well, knowing we don't know anything and we're a nervous wreck, but we want to do well. We want to make sure we keep our job and we don't want to get what? Fired, right? So we're a nervous wreck. But then what happens? Then you start to get the hang of it, right? You're not there yet, but you start to get the hang of it. And at some point, you start to feel right at home. You're comfortable with this new thing. It's not just your job. Think about the first day at a new school. And even if you've never moved, I mean, think about the first day of elementary school. You know, I remember kindergarten like it was yesterday. I remember the smell of The number 2 pencils, I remember going to shop for that stuff with my mom. I remember getting this like burgundy colored backpack. I remember the sound of the zippers. I remember all that stuff because it was exciting and scary. The first day of school. And the first day of school at a new school, whether it's kindergarten or whether you're going into real school, first grade, elementary school, or whether you're going into middle school, isn't it the same thing? At first, you're probably a nervous wreck. Then you start to get the hang of it. Then you go to high school and you're scared to death because you realize now you have a schedule and you have to go to different buildings and different classes and find out where they are. And you're like, what if I never find them? Whoever thought that when they were in the 9th grade going into, what if I don't find my, and only have 5 minutes to find it and the bell rings, now I'm going to be late. What, and you got all of these things that you're worried about. And then what happens? You start to get the hang of it and then you feel right at home. And then for some of us, then we stopped even caring if we were late. Is this true? You know who you are. So you want to make sure to understand that the process of learning is the same and new experiences is always going to be the same. But if you really focus on all the new experiences that you've had that now you're used to now, it's that same process. So if you expect that you're going to be uncomfortable at first, and keywords, it's okay. And if you expect that after you're uncomfortable for a little bit and nervous and being a nervous wreck, that you're going to get the hang of it. And if you expect that after you get the hang of it, you'll be able to be seated in comfort with doing it, and you know that that's a part of every single process of experiencing something new, then you don't have to be afraid of it anymore. Because if you look at all the experiences that you're comfortable with now that you first started, I promise you it goes through that same process. All right? Now, what's number 3 on this count to number 10? Embracing change. And this is a big one for people. It is difficult to embrace change. But I want to ask you something. What are you tolerating in your life? Is there something you're holding on to that you're afraid to let go? For us, we find security in things that we should see as things that keep us insecure. See, a lot of times we're afraid to let go of bad relationships. And I'm not talking about intimate right now. I know a lot of times we talk about with human beings, if I say bad relationship, immediately they think about a bad girlfriend, boyfriend, or spouse, right? No, I'm talking about it could be bad relationships with friends. It could be bad relationships with coworkers. It could be that we're afraid to let them go because we value belonging more than we do being in the right area to win. And so my question to you is what am I valuing that maybe I shouldn't be because I'm just afraid to be alone? I need you to understand that as a leader, you're only alone in the very beginning, but if you're leading in the right direction, if you have a great conversation and if you have the right seed to plant and you're sharing that with enough people, all of a sudden you start to get a flock. You start to have people around you, people that step up as leaders that want to lock arms with you and followers that want to go where you're leading. So you just have to have the courage to be alone in the very beginning. But like I said before, it's a process. So if you understand that the process starts alone, it's just like life. You started alone. But as you continue, you'll bring people along with you. Some are along in the beginning for a little bit. Some are along for a long time. Some of them will be with you until the end. But understand that it's a process. Insecurity controls good and bad things in life. It keeps you from chasing the best opportunities and prevents you from letting go the things that are making you unhappy. You want to understand that change, we all know change is terrifying. So we cling to things that are familiar, even if it makes us unhappy. Change gives us the confidence to make great decisions. So when you embrace change and you step out into the unknown consistently, you'll start to build confidence because you'll see the process that I talked about earlier. And you'll see that it's just like that every single time. All right, now here's one that's big. Practice lifestyle, not goals. And some of you, I'm going to shake you to your core right now because you've learned all your life to focus on goals, focus on goals, focus on goals. And if you're focused on goals, how come you're never hitting them? See, the goal is the goal, but that's not how you get to the goal. You don't get to the goal by focusing on goals. You get to the goal by understanding the goal. I call smart reverse engineering, because here's what most people do. They have a big goal, they break it up into chunks, and then they attempt to do those little bite-sized pieces every single day. Have you heard that? Have you heard that before? That's great advice, but that's not the foundation of it. See, the advice is great, but they don't tell you how to do it. So, okay, now I have all these little things that I need to do every single day. How many of you started realizing that as you do these little things every single day, it becomes overwhelming? Well, why does it become overwhelming? Because you didn't change the lifestyle. You're trying to do these new things while remaining the same old person. And that becomes difficult. Think about it when it comes to health and nutrition. You want to get healthy. You say, I don't want to be what I am, what I see in the mirror anymore. I want to lose 20 pounds. So instead of focusing on your lifestyle, you focus on the weight. And because you're still have the same lifestyle of eating cheeseburgers, eating cookies and candies and cakes and chips, it's very hard for you to lose the weight while keeping the same lifestyle. So it becomes overwhelming. But if you ask yourself a question, what type of lifestyle does someone that has this result live? What type of lifestyle that if someone that has this result live? I want to adopt that lifestyle. Well, how do I adopt that lifestyle? By asking, what type of philosophies do this person live by? I'm telling you something I promise most people don't give you right now. So what does that mean in a big scheme of things? That means that instead of going, okay, now I know everything that I need to do, let's go. No. What type of lifestyle does someone live that does these types of things that I need to do daily automatically? And then what type of philosophy breeds that lifestyle? I need to adopt, embrace, and internalize that philosophy. And when I make a shift in my mindset perspective, then the things that are overwhelming for someone that is just trying to change what they do every single day becomes normal to me because it's a part of who I am. Number 5, follow your own good advice. How many of us have ever given someone else really good advice? By show of hands. How many of us, same people that raised your hands, have ever thought about that advice as you gave it? Like, damn, I should give myself this advice. This is pretty good. By show of hands, who's done that before? And then how many of us realize that we don't take our own advice? So here's something that you can start to do. Start taking your own advice. If you tell others to believe in themselves, do you believe in yourself? If you tell others that they should step out of their comfort zone, are you stepping out of your comfort zone? If you've heard an ACN, if you had a team of people that do what you do every single day, would you have a really successful team? Start taking your own advice so that you can capitalize on the great things that you share with other people. Number 6, the hard road versus the easy road. Have you ever heard this before? The successful people take the hard road. In fact, there was no road over there. They carved out their own road, and they built their own road, and it was exhausting, but they did it, and that's why they're confident. Have you ever heard this before? Okay, well, I'm gonna give you a different perspective. It's not the hard road versus the easy road. Use the feeling of what's hard or what's easy as an indicator or a notification. If something looks hard, but you know as an intelligent human being that it's necessary for you to do, then it becomes what's necessary, not what's hard versus what's easy. See, in order to get to my goal, I need to do what's necessary. And if I've aligned it with the philosophy that I said that is the lifestyle I need to live to become the person who does these things every single day, doesn't it then become easier? Number 7, extreme honesty. See, I know most people say brutal honesty. I don't think honesty is brutal. I think it feels brutal because you get used to lying to yourself. If you're lying to yourself all the time and then someone tells you the truth, it hits different. Can we agree this is true? And you get offended and you get upset because they expose something that you weren't ready to be exposed to. And so now you fight them instead of addressing the lie. So I don't call it brutal honesty because there's no such thing as brutal honesty, but there is extreme honesty. Have you ever been completely honest with yourself? Or do you still pass blame to others, hindering your personal growth? Remember, truth is the foundation and the starting point to success. If we don't know where the foundation is, how can we build from it? If you don't know the weaknesses and you're lying to yourself about these weaknesses, how can you build them up? We can't. Number 8, express yourself. Self-expression is fundamental for inward and outward confidence. It might be at first just expressing yourself in the mirror, and then maybe expressing yourself to the people that are closest to you. It has nothing to do with being introverted and extroverted. That is just a cop-out. Being introverted just means that you gain energy when you're alone to go out in the world, and being extroverted means you gain energy when you're around people. That's all that really means. Everything else has to do with thinking being shy is introverted. It's not. So that's a cop-out. Start getting good at self-expression. Number 9, talk to strangers. I know they taught you when you were younger not to talk to strangers. I get it. We're all adults. Start talking to strangers. And I didn't say peek. You notice I didn't say peek strangers. I said talk to strangers. Some of you might not even be in a situation. You're like, how can I peek people if I can't even open my mouth to talk to a stranger? You know what you can start with? Smiling at strangers and saying hi. Smiling. I did a little I do these type of weird experiments all the time for myself. When we were at the Elevate event, I went through the same door to exit to use the restroom or to grab a snack and some things. And there were the people in the yellow jackets that were making sure that you were sitting in the right, I smiled, said, hi, how's the day going so far? And I smiled and looked in their eyes while I did it. You know what I noticed? Every day they looked for that smile for me to smile back. They looked for that smile so that they can smile back and ask me the same thing. And I promise you it made them feel good. That's how you can start. You know what that's building up rapport? You know, I do that everywhere that I go consistently. Any Starbucks that I gone to, any restaurant, because I'm a foodie, like Mr. Brian Baker, he knows that we talk about food all the time. We just be salivating over food that we're not eating at that moment. Right? It's just the way we both cook, so that's the way it is. But in every restaurant do you know people remember me? And it's not just because I use something my mentor, Mr. Thomas, gave me of tipping before the meal, but it's also because I make them smile. I make them feel good. Get good at just talking to strangers. And you know why you want to get good at talking to strangers? Because you'll realize that talking to strangers is a common obstacle because it forces you into awkward situations because you don't know. You don't know what they'll say. You don't know how they'll act. You don't know if they're going to say you're a loser. All these things that we say are kind of weird because that usually never happens. And if you get used to talking to new people, then you're going to actually get used to putting yourself in new situations. And then you realize that there's nothing to be uncomfortable with. I used to get uncomfortable speaking. Why am I uncomfortable speaking? I'm just having a conversation. I didn't have to practice and look at notes and make sure that I memorize and I'm good. No, I don't need to do that because I'm just having a talk with you. And when I saw Mr. Sam Foster, matter of fact, he heard me before he saw me. I saw him say something to announce that we were moving to a different room, and I spoke and he looked because he recognized the voice, and I embraced him. I didn't have to think about memorizing or figuring out what I would say when I saw Sam Foster, did I? And it might freak you out a little bit, but I came up with what we were going to talk about today 10 minutes before we're talking about it. I said, this is what I want to talk about. And so I thought about some things that were important during the topic. And I said, these are the things that I want to talk about with my people. Similar to if I were to sit down with Mr. Sam Foster for coffee, and we just start talking about things that we want to talk about. I didn't need to bring an outline. Does that make sense, you guys? All right. So we got number 9. So what's number 10? The last one. Manage self-doubt. Thoughts are thoughts that get you spiraling. All of us have it. You're like, oh no, if this happens, then that could happen. If that happens, then this could happen. And if this happens, then that. And now you're down under the table somewhere in a fetal position, all based on your imagination. So don't be mad. All of us spiral. Wait, even leaders? Even Mr. Thomas? Yes, all of us can. We have the capability to do it. The best, the masters, what do? All they've mastered is recognizing when they do. And they have a routine or a sequence that they tap into when they do. So here's what I do. When I start to spiral, the more you practice this, the faster you get. So I promise Mr. Thomas, he might spiral for a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a second. That's just because he's practiced this. What I do is I ask myself, I step back. Why am I doubting myself? Have I done things new that were uncomfortable, that I got comfortable with, that I became in the zone with? Absolutely. And then I ask myself, is whatever I'm saying right now, the negative thing that I'm saying, and this is good, guys, is it 100% true? No, it isn't. So why am I looking to move in a direction with a foundation that isn't truth? Then what should I do? Lean into the thing that is necessary. Remember I said that? Lean into the thing that's necessary. Why should I lean in? Because I know that everything that I've done that it was new, I was a nervous wreck at first. Remember I said that? But then I got the hang of it and then I got comfortable with it. I have my entire life's experiences. Remember we talked about experience, the power of experience. I have my entire life experiences telling me that this is true. Then why am I going to listen to this negative voice that wants me to hold on to things that I'm afraid to let go of, insecurities? Do you see what I'm saying and why I stacked all of these together? And I just wanted to lay it out for you. Because whatever you're afraid of, whether it's customer acquisition, whether it's piquing people in public, whether it's piquing people on social media, any of those things, I know you can master. And remember, the rate at which you learn is just your talent. That's what talent is. You don't look at someone and say they're talented because they magically came out of the womb doing it, because none of us did. It was just the rate at which they learned. And every single one of you have talent. You have the rate at which you learn it. You just have to be okay with doing it scared at first and being consistent and knowing that it's the philosophy, the mindset, creating a lifestyle that's going to reach your goals, because it's who you're being while you're doing that is what's attracting, that's coming in your life. So I know gave you guys a lot in a short period of time. So I would highly recommend going back and rewatching this video. But I really wanted to pour into you this month, because I truly believe that you deserve greatness, but you're only going to be able to achieve it if you get back to being a kid, get back to being a child, get back to being excited about experiences, get back to the truth. The truth is you were put here to win. And the only way that you're going to is if you stop believing the lie that you're not.